Hey, have you ever noticed that the only thing spreading faster than electric vehicles on our roads is misinformation about them? So I'm here to clear the air and separate fact from fiction. Here in Australia, nearly 20% of our greenhouse gas emissions come from transport. And that number doesn't even include extracting the oil, transporting it, refining it before it gets burnt in a petrol-powered engine. Not to mention, it causes our impending climate disaster and helps dictators pay for war and repression. So a big part of solving these problems and getting off coal, oil and gas is 1, powering our grid with renewables, and 2, electrifying everything, including transport. Unfortunately, a lot of people that sell fossil fuels don't want us to do that because, of course, they want to maintain their dirty profits for as long as possible. So they've been putting out lots of false and misleading information to try and shut this transition down. To get all of those messages in front of you, they've spent millions in misleading advertising campaigns, paying influencers on social media and teaming up with their friends in the conservative press. We've been getting a lot of questions about electric vehicles, also known as EVs, so that's why we've decided to make this video series. So we want to cut the jargon, debunk the myths, and set the record straight, only using accurate and credibly sourced facts. Want to know more? Stay tuned for the next episode where we'll be diving into the specifics of EV emissions. Did you know that repeated studies show that emissions from the lifespan of an electric vehicle, or EV, are significantly fewer than a petrol-powered car? Even if, worst case scenario, it's charged on a grid entirely powered by coal, which here in Australia, thankfully, it's not. The International Council of Clean Transport found that lifespan emissions from an average EV in Europe or the US is nearly 70% lower than an average petrol-powered car. So the emission savings will, of course, be maximised if the grid is powered entirely by renewable energy. And luckily, our grid is transitioning to wind and solar at a surprisingly fast rate. Already, about 30% of our power comes from renewable energy, and our government has plans to make that over 80% by 2030. The Independent Australian Market Operator has even predicted that we could be off coal entirely by 2032. Plus, 3 million Aussie homes already have solar, and that number just keeps on rising. Which means it's going to be easier for people to charge their EVs for free with sunshine on their own roofs. Stay tuned for our next episode where we will be debunking EV battery myths. Recent studies show that EV batteries last for about 25 to 30 years. The first half of an EV battery's life will be in the car. Then it can be used in a battery storage system which can power homes and businesses or even the electricity grid. Old batteries are already getting used to run streetlights in Japan, off-grid energy systems in Italy, and to store hydroelectricity in Germany. What about after that? Well, according to the CSIRO, nearly 100% of a battery's valuable materials can be recycled. More importantly, as recycling and manufacturing systems integrate, we'll get closer and closer to a closed-loop system, which means we'll need far fewer raw materials and far less mining. Lots of people have raised this very valid question. What about the impacts of mining on people and the environment? And it's up to the government, businesses, and us to demand that mining for EV battery materials is done with the highest environmental and ethical standards, with free and prior informed consent from traditional owners. Luckily, battery tech is improving fast, and we're already seeing new batteries using way less harmful materials. Stay tuned for the next episode where we'll be answering all your questions on cost and charging. So you're thinking, great, EVs are better for the planet, particularly as our grid is becoming cleaner and greener. Plus, as we lessen the need for fossil fuels, we'll lessen the need for mining overall. Supporters have also been asking, can you really make it around Australia in an EV? It turns out that the average Australian only drives around 30 to 40 kilometres a day. So that means that most of our charging can be done at home or at your destination. For long road trips, fast charging is rolling out way quicker than expected, with plans to have a fast charger every 70 to 100 kilometres around Australia. And today's rapid chargers can add hundreds of kilometres of range in only 8 minutes. Most EVs on the market right now have a range of around 400 to 600 kilometres, which means you can get from like Sydney to Canberra and back with one charge. You could even fit tea and scones with Albo in there. And as new models come out, those distances are just going to get bigger. According to the Electric Vehicle Council, driving an EV will save an average Australian around $1,913 a year. So that could help pay for your family's groceries, installation of solar panels on your roof, or a year's supply of scones. You'll also save on maintenance because EVs have far fewer moving parts, and so far fewer things can go wrong. So the overall cost of an EV will end up less than a petrol-powered car, even if it costs more to buy it first. Another question our supporters ask quite often is why it is so hard to buy an EV right now in Australia. This is where you come in. Australia sits beside Russia as the only other major global economy to not have fuel efficiency standards. That means that car companies are sending us their dirtiest cars rather than EVs, particularly the affordable ones. So that's why Greenpeace has started to put pressure on the government to bring in these fuel efficiency standards, but we need your help to do it and do it fast. It's actually super quick and easy. We've built a tool where you can find out where your MP stands on EVs and email them letting them know that you want EVs to be accessible and affordable in your community. Here and all around the world, the power grid is transitioning to renewables sooner than we thought. And EVs have just passed a tipping point where sales are growing exponentially, so prices are dropping too. And batteries are improving all the time, which is really good news. And there are other benefits too, like for our health. 1,715 Australians are dying each year from air pollution related causes. And that number can be greatly reduced if we can get tailpipe emissions off our roads. Australia is spending approximately $16 billion on fuel imports every year. So our country and our households are going to save a lot of money in this transition. Now we know EVs aren't the only solution, but they're a really important part of our sustainable future. One where we address all forms of fossil fuel use, and we design cities and public transport so you don't even need to own a car. To find out more, go to our Electrify homepage where you can have all your EV questions answered and find out what you can do to help speed up Australia's energy transition.